views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
The following audio is via a Skype call.
Welcome to the transformative show, We Carry the Light, with host Dr. Susan Allison, the show that inspires you to find the light within and shine your light in the world. Who are you right now? And who do you want to be? What is it that makes you happy, helps you feel fulfilled, and living your purpose? Tune in and let Dr. Susan help you discover that you carry the unique light that only you can shine. Now, here is your host, Dr. Susan Allison.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to We Carry the Light. This is Dr. Susan in the flesh, and I'm so glad you're here today. It's going to be a great show as always, and I know that you'll be inspired, as I've been, by our guest, Sherry Gaba, and all her work in helping people recover from addictions. I always tell you something personal, and this is perhaps why I have such a great connection with all of you, my wonderful listeners, receiving so many emails and calls from you. I just appreciate you so much and would not have a show if it weren't for you. So glad you're here. So telling you something personal is that I can relate to everything that Sherry Gaba teaches because I have been in recovery from an eating disorder for 25 years. I go to a meeting every Saturday and say I am a compulsive over and under eater. And I also say that I'm recovered from bulimia, and I am. And because of my own life and the work I've done, I believe it's possible to completely recover from an addiction as I have from bulimia. I also know that food has been my drug. And it's interesting, when I was doing some of my PhD work, I had a mentor say to me, food is the good girl's drug of choice. And I found that people I was working with, that this was true. I wasn't shooting up heroin, but I had just as much of an addiction as people who were. And it's been quite a journey for me over all of these years. So sometimes I do think of eating to stuff my feelings, but I no longer act on my thoughts. I know that there are foods I can't have, like refined sugar and white flour, and the two of them in combination. So recovery work has not only helped me in terms of my addictive food tendencies, but in every part of my life, including improving all my relationships and enhancing my work. So I can now set better boundaries, and I am clear, really a lot clearer about my core values and my self-worth. I'm more empowered and positive, and I can set an intention and manifest it easily. I've been able to do that for years. My friends call me the manifester because I just put something out to the universe that's from my highest, aligned with the universe, whatever the universe's highest is, not just for me, but for others, and it comes true every time. I owe much of my success to recovery work, and I'm grateful for professionals like Sherry Gaba. She is a licensed psychotherapist. She's a LCSW and life coach who has helped hundreds of people cope with lifelong addictions, including substance abuse, shopping, gambling, food, sex and love, codependency, trauma, depression, anxiety, single parenting, and divorce. With over 15 years of experience as a clinician, Sherry's worked with some of the top rehabilitation centers around, such as the famed Promises Treatment Center in Malibu, California. Though presently she works at Sober Recovery Center, Sherry currently dedicates most of her time to her private practice in Westlake Village, California, and her media career. Sherry is passionate about helping her clients with a supportive approach to help them resolve problems and change long-standing patterns. So hi, Sherry, and welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. You know, I'm so busy doing so many things that I rarely do these sort of interviews, but I was just really impressed with you, and I was really impressed with what you do, and I'm just honored to be here. So honored.
Thank you so much. And that's how I contacted you in the first place. Was I must be on your newsletter list, and
Oh,
I
okay.
and so I get things from you all the time. And I think I may have had you on my show when I was at another network. My show was called Empowered Healer, and
Okay.
this was probably back
Is your life
in
spiral?
2011 or 2012. So I think that was our history, but I did so many shows with them that I can't remember exactly when it was, but I think perhaps you were on my show.
Well, I used to have a show on CBS radio. Now I'm in Ventura. I do a terrestrial radio show, and CBS was also terrestrial. But I think maybe we met through that as well. It's possible.
Oh, I could have been
CBS.
on your show for my book, Empowered
Could
Healer.
be. Well, you know how it is. We find each other. Like-minded souls find each other. The more we do this work, the more we transform. I mean, the greater number of people we meet that are just, sending the same message, spreading the same message. And so
That's
here
right.
we are.
That's right. I really believe that in fact, I said once that everyone, it feels like, who's meant to be on my path is showing up. And more so since 2012. But I feel like there's this increased recognition of our soul family, recognition of one another in terms of helping improve people's lives and planet Earth. So it just feels to me that you're right, that there's that synchronicity
I'm
happening.
looking right now at your website, and I had looked at it before, and I noticed that you're really aligned with some incredible people, some very, conscious people that are spreading the same message that you and I are spreading.
Thank you. That's exactly right. And that's why you're here. So I am wondering if you feel comfortable. I know you wrote about this in your introduction to your book, but could you talk about your own journey to recovery and if your personal history has contributed to your deep commitment in your work now?
Well, my work has kind of shifted a little. Originally, it was addicts and alcoholics, and I still work with addicts and alcoholics, but I had an experience a couple of years ago that really woke me up. It completely woke me up to the need out there to really support the families of addicts and alcoholics, that there is so much support out there for the addicts. There's a rehab on every corner, just like there is a marijuana dispensary on every corner, but there's only maybe 2 places in the whole country that actually support the families. So my journey was, about over 10 years ago, I worked at Promises Malibu, which is one of the first rehabs that had sort of a residential look to it. And I started working with addicts and alcoholics, and then just out of, a fluke, I was watching Celebrity Rehab on television a few years later, and I noticed that they didn't have a psychotherapist. They didn't have a licensed psychotherapist. They only had counselors. And being a Law of Attraction person, but not really knowing that I was a Law of Attraction person, I put out the intention that I was going to be on his next show. I was going to meet Dr. Drew Pinsky, who's the famous addictionologist who now has his own show on HLN and so forth. And I said, I'm going to meet him, and I'm going to be the therapist. And lo and behold, a fluke, I did meet him. I did his radio show. At that time, it was called Dr. Drew Live. And I made it an intention to get invited to be on his show. And so for the next 5 years, I filmed Celebrity Rehab, Sober House, and Sex and Love Addiction with Dr. Drew. And that, to me, was the law of attraction. So I knew there was something there connecting me with recovery and law of attraction, and I decided, I got to get this out to people. I got to get this message that, we can create our realities, and we can eliminate habits in our lives through creating our realities. And so out of nowhere, again, law of attraction was working in my life. I had a publisher contact me and said, do you want to write a book? I thought they were contacting me to, submit an article, and they're like, no, we want you to write a book for us. And so that was when I created the Law of Sobriety, which people can get on Amazon. And that book basically takes people through 7 steps using principles from the Law of Attraction, laws of the universe. And from there, unfortunately, I ended up going through a very sad situation with my husband at the time. He was having multiple relapses. He had been an alcoholic when I met him, but he was in recovery, and he no longer had a recovery program in his life, and so he did relapse after a terrible accident at work and doctors put him on painkillers, and I have a feeling a lot of people probably on this call can relate. And I know this is a very long story, but it's sort of
no, it's very interesting. Keep going.
Yeah, I don't want to, keep people on this journey here, but it really is a journey that took me to the families. Basically, I became the obsessed wife, that was going to do everything to get my husband sober. And what's interesting about this is you and I are both licensed clinicians, and we don't always talk about our own journeys. And I'm one of those therapists that do talk about my own journey because it makes me more authentic, more real. And basically, it didn't matter, that I was a therapist. I became obsessed with the addict. My disease became saving him, and it really was a disease. And for a good 4 years, I was asleep, really walking in a sleepwalk, trying to save him, really giving up everything else in my life, even my book. I stopped speaking. I stopped doing all the things that one does, when you are a therapist and you have a book and you have a brand. And I knew I had to do something, and I knew the law of attraction had worked in my life before, and so I got some training, and I decided to sign up with some of the greatest spiritual masters out there, like Bob Proctor, Mary Morrissey, and I did a very intense 6-month course with them and woke up, and lo and behold, got divorced and was able to remove myself from that addiction. Although you never remove yourself, you just keep exercising that muscle of, recovery. And so I created at that point Wake Up Recovery, which is really everything I did to wake up, because I really was addicted to a person. And I think we have a lot of people out there that are addicted to something. In my case, it was love addiction and codependency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm so glad you're talking about all this with such authenticity and transparency, because so many people listening either now or to the archive show are going to be able to relate. Isn't it interesting that there's this segue that we often start with an addiction and then work on that, and then it morphs, and there's this connection, or maybe it was there all along, but at the heart or the bottom is often this love addiction piece. And I've seen it in my own life. I see it with clients all the time, that we are multiply addicted, some of us.
Right, we call that cross addiction, and if we're not careful in our own life and have our own program instead of focusing on everybody else's program, namely our clients or our, the people around us, and we forget about ourselves, we become healers that are not healed. And we there's no accident that we got into this field, because we're empaths and we're healers and we're natural-born healers. And what happens is we lose ourselves unless we exercise our own program. And I really stopped doing that. I stopped going. Years ago I had been in Codependence Anonymous. I am not an alcoholic. I have abused alcohol in my life, but I never crossed over to dependency. But I was a codependent and a love addict. And I stopped going to codependent meetings years ago. And lo and behold, just like, a drug addict, if they stop going, if they pick up a drug or they take a drink and they've been clean for so long, it actually is worse than it was before. Well, I will tell you right now, my love addiction and codependency, when I got into it, that disease again, was tenfold from what it had been earlier in my life. So it's the same gene, I believe. I'm not a scientist, but I think that the gene of addiction can cross over into food and love and sex and gambling and internet, and I think now we're creating addicts with technology today. Yep.
No, we sure are. I told a funny story the other day to a group of people I was speaking to, that a friend of mine is a complete workaholic. She's completely addicted to work. And she went to a Workaholics Anonymous meeting, and there was no one there.
Oh, that's so funny. I didn't even know there were workaholic meetings. I thought there was. You're kidding.
There was, at least here where I live, which is in Central California. But, she and I, it was humorous and yet very tragic at the same time, because she needed a life, because she was spending her entire, and I think people are now with electronics, people are spending their whole life in front of a computer. And as an author, I sometimes feel like I am glued to this box. in terms of writing and editing, and it just takes over my life at times. I have to be very, very careful that I can get into being a workaholic myself.
Do you still have a practice? Do you still see clients?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm part-time. I have an office here in Santa Cruz, California, where I see clients, and I do a lot of work on the phone and by Skype with people all over the world. I'm sort of changing that, but I do have an office where I go during the week. But also, this just came out with my 5th book, and so. But the point is,
oh my God! Wow!
I can do what you're describing, which is, this cross addiction can happen very easily for me when I am not focusing on myself in terms of my deeper needs and my feelings and my body. What does my body need right now? I can live from my neck up, which is absolutely not healthy.
Well, that's amazing. I cannot. You just told me you wrote 5 books. I'm sitting here with my mouth open. When did you start writing your books? I know that we're not interviewing you, but I am just so impressed because I can't even get my 2nd book out. So when you tell me you've written 5 books, I want to hide under my table. How did you? I mean, that's incredible, Susan. And now, so because I speak your language. We do so many different things. How did you do that? How do you manage your time? That's amazing.
Thanks. I don't think all of it is healthy, and so I'm not recommending to you or listeners that you do this. But I have a lot of energy. I've had a lot of energy since I was a child. I mean, I have tons of personal energy, and that has served me well. But sometimes I don't pay attention to my body, and I burn out, and I crash, and I'm exhausted. And I had adrenal exhaustion at one point in my life from pushing myself.
Wow.
So the point is, it's not always healthy what I've done, but I have always been an overachiever. I've always been that way since childhood, and it's not always good. But I have, like you, I feel like I have a soul's purpose on the planet, and that has been what has been driving me in the last decade especially, is there is something I had to get out, and I have done it in my last book. But it's also important to be balanced. And so 2016 for me, Sherry, is about creating balance, which is some more play, more fun. And I think we can be too driven in our lives. And I see that.
I think we need a book out that really kind of speaks to that for caregivers, because I think people, as caregivers, we really are overachievers. I think what you're speaking about is really, first of all, I just have to thank you for being so honest, because I am very transparent as well, and I think that when you do that, you're helping someone know that, oh my God, I have the same issue. So I think there's something to that. I think that, but also I remember when my father had a heart attack. He had a heart attack. He was around my age, maybe a little bit younger. He passed away last year, and but when he had this heart attack, the doctor said to him, there's good stress and bad stress.
Yeah.
So I do think what you're talking about when you say you have a lot of energy, I think a lot of that is really positive. I mean, I think that's your good stress, and you're doing something you love, and and people can have plan A and plan B, because there's probably people on this call going, I hate my job, and you're so lucky, and how come you get to do what you love, and you get to have a radio show, and you get to write a book, and you get to be on TV, and I don't get to do those things. The bottom line is that those things just don't happen where you give up, the day job. If people knew our journey, Susan, they would know all the things that we did to get where we've gotten. So it's a matter of balance, and it's a matter of you really do need to be doing what you love, but you can't necessarily give up what it is you're doing right now to get there. And that's where balance comes in.
That's right. I'm looking, I printed out some things from some of your books, and what you're just talking about is something you have called, can you relate to any of these excuses? It's like one of them, I have no idea what I have to do with my life. I don't feel good about who I am. I feel empty inside. I love to feel more connected spiritually, but I don't know how. I feel stuck and frozen and in fear. This is too hard. My life's a mess, and I don't know how I'm going to make it. So I love that you put that, because we've all been there, haven't we?
Yeah. there's an antsiness in some of us when we aren't doing what we love. And those are great questions to be asking yourself. And then the question is, how can I make that happen, but at the same time not give up, what I need to do to pay my bills? I mean, there's just there is this smoke and mirrors effect that I think that some of the transformational leaders put out there, that, it just kind of happens. Like one day you just say, I want to do this, and then it just kind of occurs. People have to understand that it takes action steps. And, that's kind of where The Secret sort of failed us, and that The Secret was a great movie about what we create, what we think we create. However, what it didn't do and what it failed to do was talk about, okay, so what are those action steps that I have to take? And how can I take action steps that are doable and that I can master and that are in small bites? And so I bet if you looked at your journey, Susan, just like I've looked at mine, they were all small bites. First I had a full-time job, then I opened up a small practice at night, then I went and got a part-time job, and then I still had a private practice. Then I was able to give up my job to just have a private practice.
Right.
Then I wrote my book, but I still had a private practice. And,
right.
And now, like, I'm listening to you saying, well, now you do more Skype and you do more, that's probably another layer of what you've done to expand, what you do, but you didn't give up your practice in person. You know what I mean? So,
exactly.
It's a matter of, like, what is it I'm doing and how can I, like, step into and show up for the world? But again, realize, it isn't going to happen overnight. I mean, when I wrote my book, if I was just to sit there and go, well, I'm going to make $1 million because I'm going to sell 1 million books, I would have never written my book. I mean, we've got to just kind of be in the process. And while we're in the process, we're creating. And then we're creating what it is that we desire by being in the process.
Yeah, I love that. It's sort of your second chapter in your book, The Law of Sobriety, where you say, find your purpose with intention. And I think that what you did, though, it wasn't magic. It wasn't magic for me either. No one had a magic wand and they waved it over us. But you turned inward, you turned inside to your higher self, to your intuition, I believe, and figured out what it was you wanted, and then you started taking steps to achieve that.
Well, I do know this, that when you have a calling, there is nothing anyone can do that will stop you. When it is the right calling, like when I knew I had to become a therapist, it just was, when I tell this story, people go, really? I didn't even think of myself as somebody that could even be a therapist. Like, I didn't even think that people like me got master's degrees. I was in my 30s. I was in an abusive relationship. I was dating a psychologist. And I thought, wow, how did he do this? If this creep can become a therapist, I certainly can. But I didn't even, when I was younger than that, I never even dreamed that I could do something like that. Well, lo and behold, it became a calling. And so it took me, because I was so insecure at that time, it took me about a year to decide where to go to school. And then I made the decision to go to one of the hardest schools. I don't recommend it. I went to USC. And it was like I had to do it. And then here I am, a single mother, broke up from that relationship, going to school, interning, still having to make a living to support my daughter. Crazy stuff, but I had to do it. It was a calling. I didn't even know the question you asked me. But the intention was I had to do this. And the same happened when I wrote my book. The same happened when I wanted to be on Celebrity Rehab. And now I am starting my next book. But this book has been inside of me now for 4 years. It's just been inside every cell of my body, but I couldn't get it out because I was stuck on the addict. I was stuck trying to, save my ex-husband. Yeah. And so that's why I'm so passionate about my program, Wake Up Recovery, because in other words, you cannot reach that calling if you're not awake. You can have a calling all day long. You can have a purpose all day long, but if you're asleep, if you're letting your addictions control you, or if you're letting the trauma inside of you control you, you're not going to be able to accomplish anything. So once I did this work with my body, I worked with some spiritual masters. Then I was able to wake up and start achieving my goals again. And now I'm like a maniac. Now I'm just doing everything because I feel like I've got to make up for the 4 years I was asleep, which of course is not true.
No, and I feel like you were. I call it being in the river, and I feel like you were in the river the whole time. But there are these little tributaries that lead off. There are these diversions. And I think sometimes, and I know Marianne Williamson says that it's our powerfulness that scares us, that we're powerful beyond measure. And I think that there's this fear of success, this fear of being so powerful. And what happens, I think, is then we divert. You know, you got into this 4-year relationship where you were codependent again and you were not focused on yourself, because I think sometimes unconsciously we get scared. So,
well,
but
you are
really,
so intuitive, Susan.
Yeah.
I've got to tell you, that is one of the most intuitive things that I've heard in a long time, because that's absolutely true. People would say, you know, Sherry, you walk in a room and you don't realize how powerful you are. You don't realize what you've done with your life. You don't get what people see in you. What people see in you, you don't even see in yourself. And that is exactly what was going on. And you are so right. You are right on that we sometimes are afraid to step into our power. We're afraid that our message won't be heard. You know, my program isn't the 12 steps, although I love the 12 steps, and I'm a member of Al-Anon, and honestly I'm able to say that because it's my program and I'm allowed to say what I'm in. Al-Anon, you know, saved my life, so I'm a huge proponent of the 12 steps. But when my book came out, I was afraid people, all the anti-12-stepper, the pro-12-steppers would think that I'm anti-12-step. And I was really afraid to talk about my program. And it was a big mistake, because there are people out there that are looking for additional programs. They're looking for alternative programs.
That's right.
They're looking for something after the 12 steps. And so what I want to say to your listeners is, if you have a dream and you have a book or you have a calling or you have a message, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to share it, you know. And I was afraid, and not anymore. Been sharing it like crazy lately.
Yes, you are. You are on fire and in your river. And we have
so
to
what do you mean by being in the river? I'm curious.
We have to take a break right now, but we'll be right back, and I want you to talk about your e-course, Wake Up Recovered, when we return.
With a little love and some tenderness, we'll walk upon the water, we'll rise above the mist.
Put a little woohoo in your life with Keys. Keys Clear Protein Waters have 22 grams of smile-making, attitude-adjusting protein in every bottle. Did I mention its tongue-tingling taste? Not just another guilty pleasure. With Keys, you'll enjoy every low-sugar sip and freedom from gluten, lactose, and GMOs. Who needs the fountain of youth when you can find Keys on Amazon or at Keys, Kees, please.com. Put a little woohoo in your attitude with Keys Protein Water.
A word of caution: if you prefer the status quo and you are not interested in improving every aspect of your life, this book will trigger the shift out of you. The Truth is Funny, Shift Happens is available now. Author Colette Steffen brings the powerful knowledge and life-changing energy and empowerment from the radio airwaves to the pages of her new book. To get your copy in paperback or ebook, visit thetruthisfunny.com today.
Shine On Radio. Find Your Shine with Kelly is the show that celebrates what makes you, you. Join co-hosts Kelly Wadler and Dr. Pat Basili as they break down how to brilliantly fuel and move your body and love what makes you shine. Kelly is a professional arts and wellness coach dedicated to helping brilliant women find their confidence, energy, self-love, and shine. Tune in to Shine On Radio with Kelly and find your shine on TransformationTalkRadio.com.
Hi, I'm Leslie Fontaine with Sheer Alchemy on Transformation Talk Radio, and here's your tip of the week. When we own our own responsibility, we're choosing to own our choices, our energy, our day, our jobs, our relationships. It's a tall order, and what difference does that make? Well, plenty. We're choosing to look within, to change agreements within ourselves, to keep our energy field clean, and to upgrade as needed to make choices that are authentic to us. This shifts our language. We no longer blame others. We're no longer victims. outcomes of our circumstances. So if we don't get paid abundantly or loved abundantly, let's look within and ask, where am I not honoring myself? Where am I not loving myself? Let's change the agreement. Let's get real with what's in place, forgive ourselves and others, and shift into our new life. Visit me at lesliefontaine.com or call me at 678-665-3366. Let this be the last day that you choose to look outwardly and look within.
What is a Master Soul Gardener? With Nomi Bahar, you can be one too. Her revolutionary Gates of Power method is a comprehensive program that addresses every aspect of yourself and gives you the tools to tend to the seeds of your soul's garden. Let Nomi guide you through and beyond what's holding you back and help you embrace the life you've always dreamed of. To learn more about upcoming classes and workshops, visit gatesofpower.com today.
And some harmony. We'll take the world together. We'll take them by the hand. 'Cause I got a hand for you. Oh, I wanna run with you.
Welcome back, everyone, to We Carry the Light. This is Dr. Susan Allison, and I'm here with Sherry Gaba, and we are having a fantastic conversation about all kinds of things, about addiction, about our purpose, getting off our path, getting back on. And before the break, Sherry and I were talking about her book, The Law of Sobriety, and her e-course, Wake Up Recovery, that I said we would talk about in this next segment. And Sherry has kindly agreed to do a meditation with you. Of course, do not do this if you're driving. Please keep your eyes open. But if you are somewhere where you can close your eyes, that would be great, or listen to the show later and do it then. But Sherry, tell them what this is and what sort of the outcome, the ideal outcome might be.
Well, I just want people to really get into their bodies before I start the meditation. It's a meditation on finding your purpose. But what's really important, and it's the kind of work that I did that helped me wake up, is really noticing where you're sitting, grounding your feet, maybe moving your feet back and forth against the ground or the carpeting. Notice the texture of the couch you're sitting in or the chair you're sitting in. Part of my waking up process and part of the whole Wake Up Recovery program is doing a lot of work around noticing your body and what's going on in your body, because I think a lot of people don't achieve their goals because they're stuck in their bodies. So really notice where you are, and we're going to do something called What Do You Desire? We're going to start now. So let's just play pretend. And I want you, and you can have your eyes closed or open. You can take some deep belly breaths before you start. But I want you to imagine you're a child again, without worries or anxieties. And if you were a child that did have a lot of worries or anxieties, I want you to place yourself in a position where you were a child that didn't have those worries. Imagine that you're this little girl and the world is just completely open to you. And remembering those feelings you had of wonder and curiosity. And just let go and remember what that felt like. Go back, re-experience the joy and excitement you felt. And just let it resonate all through your body. Again, getting back into your body, feeling that joy, feeling that energy. Way deep down, deep, deep, deep place in your soul. And I want you to remember, because that's what we're here to do, is to remember. Think about everything you wanted to have, to do, to be. Embody it with all your senses, sight, sound, taste, smell, and touch. And what would it feel like to just be what you had dreamed of becoming? Maybe you wanted to be an actress, an author, a writer, a doctor. Maybe you wanted to be an architect, build houses. Did you want to be a pilot? And then kind of move forward a few more years and then go back again into your body and noticing what's coming up for you. And then ask yourself, what stopped you from pursuing those dreams? And then again, going back into your body and noticing, now do you feel this constriction that you actually didn't pursue what you loved? Or are you feeling expansive because you did? Were you told that what you wanted to do would not make a practical career? Were you told that, maybe there wasn't enough money for you to go to college? Were you told your dreams were just crazy, silly ideas? Were you told very few people make it in their dream career? Maybe you had some belief, some old story that you were not good enough or capable of achieving such a dream. We've all been that little child with dreams of the future, every single one of you on this call. And just note, just being on this call together, vibrating together, you're on a very high frequency right now. Somewhere along the way, perhaps those happy, hopeful images were replaced with fears, anxiety, doubt, and the belief that it just would not happen for you. Maybe you felt undeserving. And what I want you to do right now, because you're on this call, just the fact that you're right here with Susan and myself, it's time to access the positive energy, the universal energy force, infinite energy, and to start making your dreams a reality. And ask yourself, what is it going to take for me to fulfill my deepest desires? What is that next step, that next action step that I need to take? And it can be a small step. And what would you want if anything was possible? Dream big, dream big. I mean, I'm going to live on the ocean one day. And the answers will come as long as you tap into the laws of the universe. Don't worry about how long it's going to take to get there or whether your dreams will be fulfilled exactly the way you see them. Like I always say, and they always say, is don't quit until the miracle happens. Just trust the universe. Trust the opportunities that await you as long as you stay focused with intention on what it is you desire. And then whenever you're ready, maybe slowly open up your eyes, again noticing where you're sitting, resourcing yourself, looking in the room, looking at the walls, looking at the paintings. If you're outside, looking at nature. Just get right back into your body, right here, right now, on this call. And then just take a breath. Here we are.
Mm.
You like that,
Loved
Susan?
It. Loved it.
Where'd you go? What are you dreaming of?
I have this, it started at a county fair when this interviewer, a TV interviewer, asked me, I don't know, about the fair and asked me what I wanted. And through me, it was like a divine download came out. I want to help the entire planet heal. And he started laughing that it was pretty grandiose. But then I wrote a book about healing, and now I've written my book, You Don't Have to Die to Go to Heaven. I want to help people overcome the fear of death and know that we're immortal and that our loved ones are fine, our departed loved ones are fine, and that we can live fully here and not be afraid because we're immortal. And there's a beautiful spirit world that people call heaven or whatever they call. Yeah, it's waiting for us. And I've been there many times since 1993. So I'm a modern shaman. So anyways.
I love it. I love your energy, Susan. I love how your branding, your message, your interests, your passions have morphed into other ones. I think it's fabulous. You know, my dad died last year, and I did a lot of studying this year about the soul and where we go. And I've had a lot of contact with my own father. And you're absolutely right. We are thought consciousness, and every day because I adored my father, and losing my dad after all the other pain I've been through with my divorce and the relapsing of my ex. I mean, I never thought in a million years I could be as happy and whole as I am today after going through what I've been through. But there's no doubt my father is always with me. His thought consciousness is always working through me. He's always channeling through me everything that I need. He's on this call right now.
I know 100%. It. I have goosebumps, God bumps, just hearing you speak of him. And he's right here, and he's your guardian angel.
Oh my God, yes. There's no question. And you know what's so beautiful is my daughter's. I'm going to be a grandma for the first time, and this all happened right after. I mean, it's just miracles. I mean, to lose to lose my dad, and then for my daughter to get pregnant, which was not necessarily something that was planned. I mean, to have all of these amazing things occur in the, when there was so much pain, because of course he had cancer and he suffered. But when he died, I mean, I don't know if these are the things that you share on your calls, but he had the most amazing death ever. It was incredible. Incredible.
Yeah. And he was lucky to have you, Sherry.
Oh, yeah.
He's very lucky to have you, and you helped him so much.
But people do need to know there is something greater, and that's the thing about my message is that people need to look beyond the circumstances they're in. As as limited as they may be feeling right now, financially or emotionally, or maybe they're single or whatever it is that's going on in their life that they're not, where they want to be. There is something out there that is on its way. There's so much more than their circumstances. It's just there. It's just there. They just have to call it in, and they have to believe, and they have to have faith, and they have to know that that energy is going to morph into what it is that they're meant to be doing. It may not be exactly what it is they desire, but it's going to show up. I mean, I never thought my next book, it's interesting, we talked about the 4 years that I should have been writing. Mm-hmm. My book that's going to come out next wouldn't have been the book if I would have written it 2 years ago.
Exactly. You're so right about that, for people listening not to give up and to know that whatever happens will be for their highest, but at the time it feels like you're circling the drain. It's so
real
hard.
Timing is, that stupid little saying that timing is everything. My book, right now, and of course my mother won't be on this call, so I have no problem sharing this. She'll never hear this interview. She is a love addict, and now she has replaced my dad with someone that probably isn't in her highest good. And so this information wasn't in my book 2 years ago, because my next book will be about love addiction. This generational sort of love addiction is real. It is a gene. It really comes from my own grandmother. Had a love addiction. She was a gambler. She was with a gambler, and while she was dying of cancer, this gambler stole everything out of her home. So there is this genealogy of love addiction in my home, in my family, but none of this would have been in my book 2 years ago. And I plan on sharing some of this in my book, and I share it because love addiction is real. Addiction is real, whatever that addiction is in your life. And it's about waking up. It's about transforming it into something that is more positive for you.
Absolutely
but it'll only
right.
happen.
And I loved how you said during the meditation, you don't give up till the miracle happens. And you need to believe that this miracle is going to happen, which sometimes is hard for us as humans. But you have so much tenacity and so much courage and faith. And I know that you inspire your clients and your readers to have that faith.
Oh, yeah. You have to have. I can't even imagine going through life without it. How could I have gone through what I've been through in a lifetime? From being a young single mother, very young, to the divorces, to the alcoholism, to losing my father. And there's people out there that I'm sure have had even worse tragedies than me, but it's all relative. I could not have gone through this journey without a belief that there's always something greater expanding, that whatever hole I was in those 4 years, even when I was asleep, I knew eventually this would pass. This would pass. But I don't think that people have to suffer the way I did for those 4 years. I think there's another way, and there just is. That's a long time to sit in my stuff, and it was because I was untreated. I was not taking care of myself, and you come first. And the problem is when people are not in their own bodies, and that's why I talk a lot about being in your bodies. It's real hard to take care of yourself because you're outside of yourself.
So true. And so for people who are inspired by you, which I'm sure are going to be thousands today, tell them how to contact you, how to get your book, how to get your e-course, and anything else that you're offering.
My book is available on Amazon. That's the best place, or any of the bookstores, Barnes & Noble, or whatever bookstore is close by, or Amazon. Wake Up Recovery is my latest course. It's 10 hours of me talking about all of these universal law principles. I was being trained by the masters, and I'm training you now what I've been trained. and it's related to letting go of anything that's holding you back, whether it's an addiction, a person, a place, a thing, and that's at wakeuprecovery.com, wakeuprecovery.com. And also I have 5 spaces left. I'm doing individual sessions, so I have already 15 have already signed up. I have 5 left where if they buy it today, it's $97. They're also going to get they're not only going to get 10 hours of me of a recording, a workbook, they're also going to get me in person. So it's an incredible value. And that's wakeuprecovery.com. And then if they just want to learn more about me, I'm at sherrygaba.com, SHERRY, Gaba, GABA.com. Please write me. I'm all over Facebook. Message me. I'm very approachable. I'll write you back. I guarantee it. I'll write you back.
Wonderful. And when you say in person that part of that individual course for $97 is in person, tell people where you are.
Oh, well, it doesn't mean in person like...
Oh, you mean just in person?
I mean, they can come in, sure. If they're close to me in the San Fernando Valley, they can certainly come in to my office. But I'm thinking that I'm speaking to people all over the world. So basically it would be a phone or Skype call.
Yeah.
But yes, if they're local, come on in.
Just checking. And is your office still in Westlake Village?
Yes, I'm in Westlake Village, California. I spend half my time there. The other half... I also have a summit. If people want to learn more, they can go. I mean, I have so many websites. RecoveryTodaySummit.com, where you can get some there. RecoveryTodaySummit.com, where I interview huge masters like yourself. And then I have a magazine app called Recovery Magazine. They can go to RecoveryTodayMagazine.com and get their free subscription to my magazine. I'm just basically all over the media these days.
I know. I feel grateful that you're here with us today, Sherry. You're doing so much good in the world.
I say no a lot. I really don't do these very often. I'm asked to be on telesummits all the time, and I usually say no. But for some reason, Susan, there was something about you that made me want to do this interview.
Wonderful, wonderful. I can relate to you so much. And so just briefly, I want to say that my husband passed away 2 years ago, and in 2013, and my writing of my book, You Don't Have to Die to Go to Heaven, is partly due to his passing and then my being able to visit him in what I call a level of heaven and do shamanic journey work so that I can spirit travel and be with him there. And if he hadn't transitioned, I never would have written the book. I never would have wanted people to go beyond their fear of death. I never would have wanted people to really realize their immortality, because I've been there and I had a personal experience, and everyone can go. Everyone can go there now.
So what is it? Yeah, tell me more about this shamanic work. I want to learn more about that. That sounds amazing.
Well, we can talk separately, and I am actually going to be doing a book signing at Mystic Journeys on February the 8th in Venice Beach, California.
Oh,
so
please send me information. Oh, my God, I will be there.
I'll send the information. I'd love to meet you in person and love to have you there. And I'm going to take everybody into trance. I just took 75 people into trance at Bookshop Santa Cruz when I did a reading there just a couple of weeks ago. So I'll be doing that on the 8th of February. It's a Monday night.
Oh, wow, that sounds amazing. I'm not too far from Venice. Definitely get me that information. You really are a like-minded soul, Susan. There was definitely no accident here. And that's the thing, like when you're asleep, you're not open to these things. Like you can be sure, Susan, if you would have contacted me 3 years ago when I was in my trance, my negative trance, I would not have met you. And so, that's why it's so important to wake up, because we miss opportunities. I mean, when I met Dr. Drew and my book and all of that, that was one of the happiest times of my life. I was a newlywed, I was newly married, I was open. But when you're asleep and you let a tragedy or whatever trauma put you to sleep, you miss all the opportunities. And all of my greatest opportunities have been when I'm awake and I'm open.
You know what you said though about your father's passing. You are healed enough to see that in a sense as a gift, as a blessing, as a way to open you up open up your heart. And I think all the listeners who have gone through grief, have gone through tragedy, the death of a loved one or something else, it potentially opens our hearts. And I do feel strongly that that kind of experience can be heart-opening. It can make us more compassionate towards others. It makes us able, as you do, Sherry, to share so transparently about your own life. You know, if we hadn't suffered, we wouldn't be able to share these things and model that people can recover, that there is light beyond the darkness.
Yes, there is light. I mean, really, I want people to know that whatever pain you're in right now, whatever suffering, you will, it's only temporary. But you also have to make a conscious choice to, you know, decide. I mean, my father passed away, and there was the first part of the grieving was that he was just with me all the time, and I was not depressed at all. But then it hit me, well, he really is not in the physical world anymore. He's in the spiritual world. And so I really just missed his personal smile, his laugh, his sense of humor. There were some things and then I kind of went down a little rabbit hole a bit. And then when it got to about a year, I said, okay, that's it. Done, I'm done, I'm back. I'm not going to go down this road anymore. And I made a conscious choice to use the grief and to use the pain and do something positive with it. But I made that choice.
Yes, you did. I'm so glad you're saying that, because I believe every single thing is a conscious choice. Because really choosing not to act is a choice, is it not?
But don't get me wrong. Like if you have real depression, or you're really in a place where you can't even get to a baseline where you can even make a conscious choice, see your doctor, get therapy.
That's right.
Do energy healing. Whatever. You can't just make a conscious choice if you're not at baseline. And so please know that I am not minimizing anybody that is below baseline where you have a clinical depression and you really need, additional support. Please get that support so you can cross over to the next phase of your journey in an awakened state.
Which is what you modeled, that you got help. I have had a hard time. I've had a hard time asking for help all my life. I've been this father's daughter, which I put my head down and keep going kind of person, but I had to ask for help when my husband passed, and I've really learned to be able to do that. Is to ask for help.
There's nothing to be ashamed of. I mean, I just got an email from the woman that I was in a grief group with, and she's starting another grief group where, the next phase of grief, and I plan on joining it. And, here I am, I'm doing great, I'm happy, I'm in a really good space, but you know what? I'm going to join a group. I'm going to join a group by another practitioner that can take me to even the next level.
Right.
Because there have been a lot of benefits through this grieving process. I mean, I've grown up in a way never thought possible after this loss. So both lost.
That's right.
I lost everything. I lost my dog of 15 years. I had a dog that died. I lost my dad, and I lost my husband, all within a couple of years.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Yep. And, it's layers. And what listeners can take from this also is that, I hear people say, I've already dealt with that. Yes, but then there's that onion, there's that layer, there's the next deeper sort of layer, and then another layer. And I asked a spiritual teacher once, when is this going to be over? This transformation that sometimes is painful. And she said, it's not. Yeah. And what I found is that it's not over even when we transition to the spirit world. We're still growing, we're still transforming as divine humans.
Yeah.
Still transforming.
There isn't an end. Just like life is not, and there isn't an ending, that we are infinite beings. There is ending to these sufferings. I mean,
that's right.
Part of life is suffering, and then waking up again, and then suffering and waking up again. And if you know that, then when it occurs, you'll know that it's only temporary and that you will get past it.
That's right. That's right. I love it. I love being with you today, having you on the show. The show's come to a close, but I will be in touch, Sherry. Like-minded souls, I feel so connected to you, and thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me, and much congratulations to all of your accomplishments.
Thank you, and you as well. And thank you, my loyal listeners, for your courage in changing what no longer serves you and creating a fulfilling life full of purpose. Please join me next week when Dr. Tony Rivera teaches us how to move from injury to insight. And until then, this is Dr. Susan reminding you that you carry the light.
You've been listening to the transformative show, We Carry the Light, with host Dr. Susan Allison, the show that inspires you to find the light within and shine your light in the world. Who are you right now, and who do you want to be? What is it that makes you happy, helps you feel fulfilled, and living your purpose? Tune in every Thursday, 10 a.m. Pacific, and let Dr. Susan help you discover that you carry the unique light that only you can shine.
The preceding audio was via a Skype call.